Hello, my name is Peter Alexander. Welcome to Making It with Headshot for Character Creator 3. This tutorial started as a pure headshot tutorial, but as I progressed I also included a walkthrough on how to create hair. For that part of the tutorial you'll need Blender and a paid add-on called Hair Tool, which can be purchased through Gumroad. I'm just opening up my source image, which is Pennywise. I'm just going to apply a bit of symmetry. This step is fully optional and only works with some projects. I'm also touching up some of the shadows so that they don't transfer over when I initiate headshot. This is looking pretty good, so I will transfer this over to Character Creator and send it to headshot. For this project we will be using the Pro mode, and I'm going to select Male and Clean Rough. I'm going to activate the Sculpt Morph tools in the Shape Adjustment dialog. I'm going to keep it symmetrical for this project for the most part, because the source image is symmetrical. I made sure of that when I started. You'll only be able to exaggerate the shape of the head so far until you reach a limit, but then you can use the bake feature on the side. That'll lock in the morph in its current state and reset the dials so you can keep exaggerating. I do this frequently. I would recommend occasionally deactivating the image matching tools and adjusting from the sides. Otherwise you'll run into some problems. You'll see that I do later on in this clip. Yep, just keep using bake. Now here's where you see my problem. But it can be fixed. In the edit mesh area, there is a sculpt tool. I want to use that to smooth out the forehead a bit. You'll notice that it's pretty sluggish. That's because the mirror X is turned on. I'm actually going to turn that off and just switch to the smooth brush and just smooth up the head as best I can. I'll fix up the symmetry later. Now I'm going to approximate the expression with the facial expression editor. That looks about right. Now when I reproject the photo, it should be a clean projection with little distortion. Just doing some cleanup adjustments. The next step is to modify the teeth. I'll be doing that using the mesh editor. As you adjust, reproject, you'll get pretty close to matching the source image. So my next step is going to be exaggerating the teeth a bit. I'm not going to use ZBrush for this for now. I'm just going to use the mesh editor. Just select the teeth and hit edit mesh. Unfortunately, there's no symmetrical selection, so you have to do this one at a time. This is not going to be perfect, but maybe it shouldn't be. But if you want them symmetrical or more even, then you can take them into ZBrush. I noticed the lips were a little off, so I'm going to adjust them and then reproject. And the head has become a little off as well. So you can kind of fix that with the morph dials, or you can just kind of sculpt it in with the mesh tools, which I'm going to do right now. I'm just using an application called PureRef to compare the reference image to the project. I'm just doing a little bit of work on the projected texture. This one has all the flaws on it. The one that's being used is this one here. So that's a combination of the base diffuse, the photo diffuse, and the blend mask. Now the blend mask is going to be edited. The way masks work is black subtracts, white reveals, or black hides, white reveals. So the white area is taking the photo diffuse and turning it into a usable texture. I'm sloppily adding a bit of white to the nose because I want the red area to show up a little more. So I'm just trying a few things here. In order to get the changes, you're going to need to update the skin texture. So I want a little bit more of the eyes and a little bit more of the lips. But that's looking better. So Headshot does a pretty good job of selecting the skin tone to match the photo. Sometimes it misses the mark. Then you have to manually adjust it. So I did a few attempts here. There we go. That's pretty good. So I'm just editing out the shine of the nose, the shine of the lips, just some of the distortion due to the projection and the source photo. The head texture is a little distorted, but it should be because it's being stretched over a larger area. The better you are at texture painting or digital painting, even traditional painting, the better you'll be at this stage. I'm kind of a novice to intermediate, so I'm able to, I get by. So I decided I wanted most of the base projection to be used with very little compensation from the diffuse map. So I'm kind of filling in a lot more white than I did before. I'm going to apply symmetry for the base mesh using the mesh edit tool. I do this kind of last when I'm ready to sort of move past headshot, because the photo will no longer align with the projection. I usually save a copy so I can go back if I ever need it. So I'm just going to take these meshes and transfer them to ZBrush. Okay, there's a few things I'm going to do in ZBrush. I'm going to make the eyes and the mouth symmetrical. I also want to get a better normal map that I can combine with the one provided by Headshot. First, I'm going to pull up my reference image, and I want to adjust the nose just a little bit. Because without the texture, he looks very little like Pennywise. But it's a good starting point. So I'm just going to adjust the nose a little bit. This is not a sculpting tutorial, there's nothing advanced here, this is just very basic. I'm going to fix the eyes now. Try to get them as close to being in place in the center of the eye socket as possible. You might have to mask one, adjust the other, do the same with the other. The closer they are to being already symmetrical, the easier this is. With one eye selected, hit resim in the deformation menu, then smart resim. You'll see that it's not quite perfect. So what I do is I buff that out with a smooth brush just a little bit. Then I'll try again. And this time it was perfect. But if you can't get it perfect, just get it as close as you can on both sides. Then when you re-import into Character Creator, automatically adjust the eye socket bone. When you reinitialize new eyes, they should be free of distortion. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the teeth. I'm also going to add a bit of flare to the eyes. However, since this is not a Photoshop tutorial, you'll kind of have to watch me do this in fast motion. You could say this is about done, but I'm also going to show you how to extract a basic normal map and combine it with the existing one supplied by Headshot. While I'm doing this, I'm also going to polish up the textures. Start by subdividing the body mesh a few times, then hide all areas except those of the head UV islands. Save it with the final base color texture and import it as a texture map in ZBrush, then turn it into a polypaint. As a polypaint, you can clean up the remaining shadows and add any extra details you would like. I'm also going to sculpt over the areas of the face and head that indicate detail and definition. For example, the cracking paint on the head. With this extra sculpted detail, you can extract a normal map and blend it with the existing Headshot normal map using Photoshop's layer blending. Now for the hair. This requires Blender 2.8 or higher and a paid add-on called Hair Tool. I purchased it through a website called Gumroad. Step 1. Export an OBJ of the Pennywise mesh in T-pose. Step 2. Import the OBJ mesh into Blender. Step 3. Select the skull cap, duplicate the mesh, and then separate it into a separate mesh. Step 4. In the particle settings, add hair. I don't have exact settings for this, so feel free to experiment. Step 5. In particle edit mode, comb the hair appropriately. Just using your mouse is sufficient. Step 6. Increase the strand width to about 20. I switch interactive grooming off and on if I'm editing settings for the hair. Step 7. When you're satisfied with the hair, select Particle Hair to Curves, and then Curve Ribbons to Mesh Ribbons. Step 8. Go to the UV settings and export the opacity map as an image file. And finally, step 9. Export the hair mesh as an OBJ. Now back in Character Creator, import the hair OBJ as an accessory. Select the mesh and set the pivot to middle. Then adjust the hair position as needed. Now, download or create a straight hair texture. I found a red hair texture by typing copper hair texture into Google. For the sake of time, we're going to use this one rather than create one from scratch. Assign the red hair texture to the base color and the opacity map you saved from Blender to your opacity slot. Finally, use transfer skin weights to convert the accessory into a hair item. To conclude the tutorial, here's a mocap re-illusion did of my first Pennywise attempt. And that's my tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it.